My name is Maurice Damery. I'm Program Manager in Healthcare in Irish Hospice Foundation, and I'm here today with my colleagues, Karen O'Connor and Claire Duffy, who will be assisting me today. There are about 180 people registered, and we still have people coming in, so that's fantastic. But we will get going, as I say, in the interest of time. So we're running this webinar today as one of many of the activities that we're doing to support Palliative Care Week, which is led out by the All Ireland Institute of Hospice and Palliative Care. And the theme this year is Palliative Care, Living for Today and Planning for Tomorrow. Today's presentations will talk about palliative care and how it can support people living with dementia. And we will also look at future care planning for people with dementia. Any of the nurses that are here today can receive a certificate so that they can claim their CEUs, and we can send that certificate of attendance out afterwards. There is a Q&A function which you'll see there today, so if you have any questions, please pop them into the Q&A function. I know time is tight, so we probably won't get to all the questions today, but if there's anything you'd like to know or find out more about, please send us in an email. There will be some polls throughout the presentations today, and this is really just to inform our future work. So we'd be really grateful if you could work with us and participate in the polls. We'll have a very short feedback form at the end, if you'd like to complete that as well. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here now as well. Sorry now. That's great. So I'm going to introduce one of our speakers today, Valerie Smith. And Valerie's session today is Future Care Planning for People with Dementia. Valerie Smith is Public Engagement Lead at Irish Hospice Foundation, and nationally she manages Think Ahead Advanced Care Planning Programme with a special focus on community-based awareness, education, accessible supports and resource development. Additionally, Val is an attorney and designated healthcare representative for a family member with advanced dementia. She knows through first-hand experience the impact that good advanced care planning can have for the individual and for their supporters. Today, she will show people with dementia and their supporters how to make an advanced care plan. So Val, looking forward to hearing your session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maurice. And it's wonderful to be here today. My name is Valerie Smith. I'm the Public Engagement Lead at Irish Hospice Foundation, and I lead on Think Ahead and on conversations around end-of-life, death and dying. So let's see if we can get this going. Just a background on Irish Hospice Foundation, if you're not familiar, we are a charity that is nearing our 40th anniversary next year. And we have been working in Ireland to improve the experiences of end-of-life, death, dying, and bereavement for all that time. And our work for in our strategic plan for the next 5 years is focusing on these three areas: conversations around death, advocating for people at end of life and through death, and supporting people in bereavement and grief. And just a note on that, we do define end of life as the last year of life. There's not a common definition or a shared definition for this everywhere, but that's what we look at, and that's how we'll be approaching it today as well. I only have maybe even 18 minutes now. It's a very quick time to introduce this topic to you, so I will direct you to this 4-part webinar series that we recorded this year that's really step by step through the process of making an advanced care plan. It's directed at the general public. We try to take it nice and slow, all the way from gathering your materials through signing your documents. And so if you can head to this is, I think will be shared into the chat as well. It's on our thinkahead.ie on our training and events pages, the links to all those videos. When we're talking about advanced care plans, there's lots of things that you can put together, but we're really looking at these two main themes, especially in the webinars, of the Advanced Healthcare Directive and the Care Plan, and the Enduring Power of Attorney. And the webinar covers both of these. For today, we'll just be looking at this, the Think Ahead Planning Pack, as one resource. And advanced care planning is sometimes, or future care planning, there's actually lots of different terms that people use, is this idea, thinking about, talking about, and then recording your choices, your values, and your preferences for future care, including through end of life. And this is a continuous process. You don't start it and then finish it in the same day. This goes on, and people change their minds and update documents. In summary, it's thinking about, talking about, and telling others about your ideas. So think, talk, tell. And this really importantly belongs to the individual. This is an image from another presentation that we gave last year or so, but it kind of summarizes that idea that these aren't documents that belong to a nursing home, to a GP's office, to a hospital. This belongs to each individual and it moves with them throughout the process. And so we know during end of life care, while there may be, we know, say, 16, 17,000 people may spend their last days in hospital. Thousands more are moving through hospital. They're moving through nursing homes. They're spending time in the community. And so there isn't one place where we are cared for. So having something that belongs to us to help us move through that process can be really beneficial. And this is from the National End of Life Survey report, which asked family members and friends of people who had died in the previous few months how their experience was. We know that while there's a lot of good things that are happening in all those different settings, places that can be improved include this area of communication, include that continuity of care, and advanced care plans is a resource that can help that and improve that time that we have together at end of life. And it's not just about the medical decisions that we're making, which we are going to talk about, but it's about that quality of life, like the Palliative Care Week theme for this year, Living for Today. This is about actively living. Somebody said that in a presentation earlier today, actively living all the way through end of life. And planning ahead can address all of these areas that impact our quality of life, our social networks, where we're living, how we're completing our day-to-day tasks. All of these sorts of things can be managed with a bit of advanced care planning. And while there are documents to complete and there is paperwork in that part, nobody likes that part. Most of the actions are actually around talking to each other, conversations, talking with people about what quality of life means with us, talking with people about who might be the appropriate person to look after certain affairs. And then it's the documentation of that, which is important, but it really starts with these conversations. And we know that this is really difficult because it is personal. Um, we often think we have to keep these things to ourselves. Some people might find it unlucky as well. It's really common to think that, if I talk about it, talking about death brings death closer. We tend to have superstitions or ideas about if we don't talk about it, we keep it away from us. It can make us afraid and upset, but really at the end of the day, we just don't have practice necessarily talking about these uncomfortable topics. And so we try to avoid them. But when we do talk about them, we're able to actually prevent a lot of the difficulties that we can see happen as people progress and lose capacity, and decisions need to be made. When we have plans, when we've had conversations, we can prevent a lot of that conflict that may arise. We can decrease stress and anxiety. We can prevent treatments or readmission into places that we don't want to be, and keep and maintain our voice through all stages of our life. So these conversations are the first step and maybe the most important step in making our plans for the future. Really what we'd love to see, and what I know everywhere that I talk to and lead talks on this wants to see, is that people are having their plans made long before they're needed. We often think, oh, I have enough time. I don't need to do that yet. But generally, like the sooner that you can start doing these plans, the better off that you'll be. There's an old Chinese saying, Chinese proverb, the best day to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best day is today. So wherever you are, for yourself, with a friend, family member, loved one that you're caring for, now's a great time to start planning. And I particularly mention that with a diagnosis of dementia, if it is a formal diagnosis, that's a great time to start planning ahead. Now you know what might lie into the future and you can plan for that. And you can plan ahead with a diagnosis because depending on your capacity and the person's ability to understand these concepts. Capacity is no longer you have it or you don't have it. We say you have capacity, you have the ability to make plans if you understand what what you're making plans for. If you're able to compare those options, make your decisions, and then and explain that to someone else. And this is with the support of another person as well. So if you can do this on your own or with the support of another person, you have capacity to make these plans. And I want to be really cautious as well, especially if you're here as a supporter, to be aware of what's called the capacity bias. And this basically says that if we think someone is making a good decision, we say they have capacity to make that decision. And if they're making a decision that we don't agree with, we say, oh, they don't have capacity to make that decision. A person has the capacity to make their decisions if they can do these steps, not based on the decision that they're making at the end. So we're allowed to make decisions you disagree with. We're allowed to make bad decisions. And I always say, I've never made a bad decision yet, but sure, I like to reserve the right just in case I choose to make one in the future. So just to be aware that it isn't about the decision that's made, but about that process. Can a person understand? And you may be here as a supporter, or you may be looking to think about who your supporters are. Supporters, and I'm using this term to mean anybody really that's trying to help you think about your choices, make a decision, communicate that, or act on those decisions into the future. And that could be an informal, a family member, a friend. It could be somebody in a formal position, a health or social care professional, or it could be somebody that you name in a document, an enduring power of attorney to make your, pay your bills in the future. But all of these people are supporters, ideally, and if they're helping you to do these things for you. So there's formal and there's informal, but that's sort of the general term to encompass everybody that might help somebody out. And again, it's coming back to this idea of your known will and preference, your values. So we used to make decisions maybe in the best interest of somebody, and now they're based on the known will and preference. And that means, what are your values? What are your personal beliefs and your goals? What do you prefer over something else? And in order to make decisions about treatment or care, or your health and social care professionals would need to know what those are. So what are your will and preference? And that's where things like advanced care plans come into place. So this is the logo there for Think Ahead, so you may see it around. And Think Ahead ultimately are documents that let people know what that will and preference is. Speaking for you when you cannot speak for yourself, expressing your values and your decisions when you cannot do so for yourself. So if one day in the future you're not able to let people know what your decisions are, you've written it down somewhere or you've recorded it somewhere. At Essence, it's the planning pack, which is a nice green folder. You'll see an image of it there in a moment, and it has 3 documents inside it. The first one is the personal wishes and care plan. This is not a legally binding document, but includes lots of different topics that you might wish to record, important information about yourself. Then there's the Advanced Healthcare Directive. This is around your treatment decisions into the future, and the medical summary form, which summarizes those other documents. We do have an online hub with lots of different prompts and things that you might think about. So if you're very tech savvy, this is something that you might benefit from. That's thinkahead.ie. And again, we have that 4-part training. Just going to really reiterate that a few times because I'm going to go way too fast for most of us today. So here's that planning pack, what that looks like. So we have the green folder and the 3 different documents in it. And people can always add other things into that folder if you wish so as well. In the personal wishes and care plan, so this purple one, bluish purple starting it off, there's lots of different things in there, like where you prefer to be cared for, or thinking about when you would want to be cared for additionally with additional medical interventions in hospital, when you would prefer to be at home. There are places to record information on your financial records or your legal records. And this might be in case somebody needs to step in and pay bills or close any accounts. They know where those things are. And some people are very clear. They may not know all the treatment decisions that they want, but they absolutely know where they'd like to be buried or who they want to speak at a funeral or something like this. And there's options for that as well. So because this isn't legally binding, you fill in what you want. You think about some other things perhaps, and you don't need to complete the whole thing. The last piece in this one is one of my favorites, which is the personal wishes, and this is just about how you like to be cared for. So I do apologize that it's a bit blurry there, but it just asks sort of things like how do you like to spend your time? Who do you like to spend time with? What do you like to be doing, or how do you like to be kept comfortable? So that if in the future, again, you're not able to kind of explain this for yourself, there's some sort of documentation about what you like. And this can be really helpful for family members, for carers who are looking after somebody who isn't able to explain what they prefer, what they like or don't like. And there might be other people coming into the home, for example, who've never met this individual. It just gives a bit more picture of who each person is. So I really like those pages. So that's the first document, the personal wishes and care plan. No need to sign it, no need to date it, and you can work on that over time. The next document is the Advanced Healthcare Directive, and this is where you can do three different things. You can refuse treatments, consent to treatments, and appoint somebody to make healthcare treatment decisions on your behalf. Again, if in the future you're not able to do so for yourself. So if a decision is needed and you can't do so for any reason, then they can turn to this document and see, oh, have they refused this in the past? Have they consented to this? Or have they named somebody who can make that decision for us, for her? When we're talking about treatments here, again, this is where a lot of people start to eyes glaze over. I don't even know where to start with this, so don't worry about it. It's all in those webinars where we go over some common treatments that are available to people. But really, you can think about any type of treatment whatsoever. If you know there's something you wouldn't want, if you know there is something you would want, you can include it in your documents. So you can mention any type of treatment. Um, Long-term treatments, short-term treatments, end-of-life care treatments, any type of treatment whatsoever, and you can refuse or consent to that treatment. Refusals basically mean I never want this under any circumstances, or I wouldn't want it under these certain circumstances, and consent means, yep, if this is available to me, I would like that treatment. And we have this in much more detail in those webinars and on our website. And so I do encourage you to go and think about at what points you would want treatment or wouldn't want treatment, but there's no pressure to do this all in one go. And we don't offer clinical advice at Irish Hospice Foundation, so we would recommend working with a geriatrician or GP about what might happen into the future, and you can think about what types of treatments there that you would or you wouldn't want. This is a really important part and the piece that I'd probably recommend most to everybody who has a person in their life that they would want to name here. So in the Advanced Healthcare Directive, you can name a designated healthcare representative. It's a really wordy term meaning your sort of healthcare treatment supporter. This is somebody who can make those treatment decisions on your behalf. And so if in the future you can't make a decision about a certain treatment for yourself, this person can step in and say, ah, yes, they would consent to this treatment or they would refuse this treatment. And that becomes your decision. So they take what they know about you, they take what you've included in these documents, and they can make those decisions for you. And this can be really great for people, especially if there are many people who might want to make a decision on your behalf, if there are people who might have conflicting ideas about what you would want. This allows you to name who you trust to make that decision. So as my auntie always says, she's 4 children, and she says, well, I know which two it wouldn't be. She's like, those two, they're too emotional. They wouldn't listen to my directions. These two over here will listen to what I want. And so even though there's 4 people maybe very close to her who would want to make a decision or would feel maybe the responsibility to make a decision for her, she's decided who she trusts to make decisions if she's not able to. So you can name these. There's lots more information on who this can be, but it doesn't have to be a family member. It can be a friend. It can be a trusted person in your life as well. So if you do have somebody there, I highly recommend naming them in these documents. And just a bit more information on that. They always follow the directions that you've given. So they don't get to make their own decision. That's always based on what it is that you would want for yourself, and they can advise if things are unclear. And you can also give them the responsibility of making additional decisions as well. That's based on what you want. The last thing in the planning pack is the medical summary form. And this is just a one-page leaflet. It's not legally binding, but it gives a bit of information about where your full documents are. So some people might leave this on their refrigerator in case something happens at home. It could be taped up there and doesn't look too overwhelming. But it could also be shared into a medical file. Not all settings are yet accepting a full advanced healthcare directive, although we're really encouraging them to. But this at least signposts to the fact that you have a healthcare directive or you have a personal wishes plan and where to find that and who to contact for it. So once again, really raced through those concepts, but it's all about the conversations, and then completing these documents will support your decisions all the way through the end of your life. We have the webinar series here again. I really encourage you um, to go into that and get a bit more information there on your planning. And I'm sure this will be shared again by Maurice and the team, but we do have the information and support line at Irish Hospice Foundation for end-of-life care, advanced care planning, and palliative care. And they can answer, again, non-clinical questions, but questions about your advanced care plan and what you might include there. And this is how you can download those forms, which I think are going to be shared in the chat as well. And we do have a new edition of that that's about to be printed. I think waiting on that final approval for printing. So those pre-orders are available there. And please do feel free to get in touch if needed. Thank you so much.
Thanks a million for that, Val. That was a great, really, really great overview. And I think a few things that have stuck in my mind following that is the best day is today, actually. So that's really stayed in my head because I have a pack here myself and I just haven't got around to doing it yet. So you're really making me think. So thanks for that. I just want to say to everybody who's attending here today, thanks so much for attending during lunchtime. It's fantastic to have you here. I apologise that the Q&A function doesn't seem to be working, so that's the gremlins for us today. But what we will do afterwards is you've got lots of links anyway to things that Val has shared, but we will share through an email the links to certain resources and the Think Ahead pack. And Val, actually, the webinar series is available, isn't it, on our website?
Yes, on thinkahead.ie under the training and events pages as well.
That's fantastic. And then in terms of questions, I know because the Q&A function isn't working here today, that a typical question that tends to come up through a lot of the different programs is what if my family member, or it could be a client or a patient or a resident, does not have very much capacity, but they do know what they want for their treatment and care. Do they really have capacity to make an advanced care plan if they don't have capacity for other decisions?
Yeah, so they do, and this was recently a similar question was recently asked at an event where we had kind of some of the other decision makers who've been leading out on this answer. So I know that that they're in agreement on this. Decision making capacity is based on what is needed in the moment. So even if a person can't decide what they want to wear that day, but they know what their treatment, what they kind of treatment things that they would want or other types of care decisions they would make, and that would mean that they have capacity for that decision. So absolutely, even if a person isn't able maybe to do much or is only able to think about those treatment options at certain times of the day, maybe in the morning is better to have those conversations, but at that time they're able to do it, then absolutely they are able to make these documents, even if it does require some support.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thanks for that, Val. And if anybody's got any queries, they can call our information support line, as Val said, at 1800 60 70 66, or get in touch directly with Val also. So that's great. So I'm just going to introduce our next speaker for today, and thank you very much, Val. Our next speaker today is Donna Mills, and Donna's title of her session is Supporting People with Dementia and Those Caring for Them to Live Well and Plan for the Future. And just a little bit about Donna. Donna is an advanced nurse practitioner in older care in community of CHO7. She has a background in community nursing for many years. And as an advanced nurse practitioner, she has developed pathways with the integrated care team at St. James's Hospital and the community palliative care team at Our Lady's Hospice Harold's Cross to keep people living with advanced dementia and advanced frailty living and dying well in their chosen environment. Donna is a national frailty facilitator. Thank you, Donna. It's great to have you here today and looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Thanks, Marie. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm truly grateful you've taken the time to join this session today, and I want to thank the Irish Hospice Foundation for inviting me to speak today. As Marie said, I work as an ANP in older adult care, and I developed a pathway together with my wonderful colleagues at Community Palliative Care Team in Our Lady's Hospice in Harold's Cross and the Integrated Care Team for older persons at St. James's Hospital. And that pathway was to keep people living with dementia in the community whose wishes are to live and die well at home. And during my time as a community nurse, it became apparent to me that those living with dementia, particularly towards the end of their lives, were not afforded the dignity they deserved at a time in their lives when they needed it. And that led to my passion on delivering a palliative integrated approach to care towards those people living with dementia and their loved ones. So today I bring my perspective as a healthcare professional entering someone's home, their world, and sharing the intimacies of their lives, and what I believe is a true privilege. I am hoping to demonstrate that delivering a palliative approach to care can be done by whomever, wherever within our skill set. I'm not a palliative care specialist and have no clinical experience in working in hospice care. I do, however, have personal and professional experiences of progressive illnesses, death and dying, planning ahead, and palliative care, like many of you online today, I'm sure. Evidently, some people will or may require the expertise of specialist palliative care teams throughout their dementia course, if and when appropriate, and it's up to us as healthcare professionals or our loved ones to be aware when a referral should be triggered. Whether you're a caregiver, a person living with dementia, or a healthcare professional, this space is for all of us to learn here today how to live well today and plan gently for tomorrow. So I want to acknowledge upfront that dementia does bring a mix of feelings, sometimes hope, sometimes fear or sadness. It's completely natural to feel that way. My goal today is to share practical ideas and compassionate approaches that honour both the person's dignity and their loved one's needs. So this slide here focuses on the dual responsibility of supporting both people living with dementia and their caregivers. And I think that's hugely important to understand that throughout a dementia pathway, the journey can be difficult, it can be rewarding, it can be absolutely everything for different people at different times. So this winding road visual symbolizes the ongoing journey of care, emphasizing that palliative care plays a crucial role in enhancing the quality of life of those with dementia. So planning ahead is essential to provide meaningful support today by preparing for the challenges of tomorrow. And Kit Wood, who talks a lot about person-centered care, which you'll hear a bit about later on, refers his quote here to individuality shaped by a unique lifetime of experiences, relationships and values, which really epitomizes that personalized compassionate care is so important for people living with dementia. So when we hear the word dementia, most people think immediately memory loss. And yes, memory problems are often one of the first signs, but dementia is much more than that, depending on the type of dementia you have. The dementia affects the whole brain and the whole person. It can change how someone thinks, speaks, and understands what's happening around them. People may have difficulty finding words, following conversations, or making decisions. It can also affect how someone feels and behaves. And we might see changes in mood like anxiety or sadness, or in behaviour such as agitation, restlessness, or even hallucinations. And dementia doesn't just affect the mind, it can affect the body too. Over time, walking, swallowing, or even everyday tasks like dressing and eating can become more difficult. So dementia is not just about memory, it's about changes in thinking, behaviour, emotions and physical health. And that's why people living with dementia and their caregivers need support across the whole journey, not only with memory. Dementia affects memory, thinking and daily function, but it doesn't erase who a person is. Each individual is unique with their own personality, preferences and strengths. Focusing on what someone can do rather than what they can't helps improve their quality of life. So sometimes you just think about a time yourself, about a moment that has brought joy or connection for someone with dementia that you might know. Simple things like engaging in favourite hobbies, listening to music, or just having someone listen can make such a big difference. As caregivers and professionals, our role is to create moments of joy, comfort, and connection. Here we see the main types of dementia, with Alzheimer's disease being the most prevalent, accounting for 60 to 70% of cases. And you can see there's other types of dementia. They're the most common, but there are other ones not mentioned here. And the dementia umbrella image reinforces that these conditions share common features, but also have distinct characteristics, which are important for diagnosis and care planning, but also important for the person living with dementia. Not everyone will experience dementia in the same way as another. So dementia is a significant global health issue, ranking as the 7th leading cause of death and affecting 55 million people worldwide. So this, you can see here from the chart and the map here, highlighting the urgent need for effective care strategies and resource allocation to meet the growing need and demand. I suppose focusing on Ireland and the local region, national and local prevalence data, with over 180,000 people in Ireland have cared for someone with dementia, with approximately 7,000 new cases diagnosed annually. The regional figure of over 75,000 older adults affected underscores the importance of targeted support services in these communities. So, with a solid understanding of dementia, it's crucial to explore how we provide the best care, especially in the advanced stages. Let's move on to discuss palliative care. The palliative care is introduced as a holistic approach aimed at improving quality of life for patients with life-threatening illnesses and their families. It addresses physical symptoms, psychological well-being, emotional support, and spiritual needs. This comprehensive care model focuses on preventing rave and suffering, ensuring that individuals receive compassionate support throughout their illness journey. Palliative care is a comprehensive approach. And importantly, it supports not only patients but also their families, offering comfort, dignity, and holistic care through all stages of their illness. And I suppose you'll see from dementia and palliative care, it is very evident that I have highlighted here quality of life. So they both, what I feel personally is that it's difficult to look after someone with dementia without palliative care approach considered, because it does help improve their quality of life while they're living. And when dementia is very advanced, dying may be expected, timing is difficult. So really here what I want to demonstrate to people is that your voice matters. So we want to hear people's voice that are living with dementia, particularly from the start of their illness. Everyone should have a voice in so far as what they want in their life and their plan and their future. But it's particularly important for people with dementia to have retain that bit of control over what they want towards their journey. And it is important to recognise that it can change. That can change over time. So I know Valerie done a brilliant presentation there on planning ahead, so I'm not going to go too much into that, but really that's what's really, really important for people with dementia, is to have a future plan. And I suppose we should never underestimate ourselves as carers, as healthcare professionals, and the healing and comfort value in your ability and willingness to be with patients and their families in their time of physical, psychological and spiritual distress. So for me, we need to hear the voice of the person in order to look after them in the way that they want to be looked after. So a person-centered approach. And it's not only me that's saying this, there is policies and guidelines available and that show us and demonstrate that early palliative care, home support and advanced care planning is pivotal in providing best quality care for people with dementia. And I really love this quote from James Cicely Saunders, who encapsulates the philosophy of palliative care, recognising the inherent worth of every individual and committing to support them fully until the end of life. It emphasises not only helping people die peacefully, but also enabling them to live meaningfully until that time, reinforcing the compassionate nature of its care, of this care approach. Many people are going to go through some gaps and challenges, role of palliative care in dementia, and the myths and misconceptions. And I suppose there is lots out there, and we might just go through a few of those. So palliative care is not just for dying. Many people believe that palliative care is synonymous with end-of-life care. However, it is appropriate at any point during a person's illness, including the early stages of dementia, to address symptoms and improve comfort. And palliative care enhances quality of life. It is designed to improve the quality of life for individuals facing serious illness, including dementia. It focuses on providing relief from symptoms and stress, regardless of the stage of the illness. And yes, there are challenges, many challenges and gaps in services, and there's very little access to community palliative care for people with dementia, I am aware of that, but limited out-of-hours support, fragmentation between health, social care, day services and dementia services, and insufficient training for frontline home care staff and informal caregivers. However, the role of palliative care in dementia improves quality of life. It provides emotional support, facilitates effective communication, promotes advanced care planning, and supports caregivers' well-being. So, as Valerie has spoken about better than I can, is about thinking ahead and what that means for everyone. It can be different for everyone, but basically for me and people that I work with, it's planning for tomorrow and trying to avoid a crisis. So completing advanced healthcare directives can be overwhelming, I'm aware of that. Talking openly about end-of-life wishes can be daunting. And studies have shown that the most powerful thing a person can do to ensure their wishes are honoured is to talk about it. And why is it so important in dementia care? Well, it is planning ahead for people means making decisions while the person can still express their wishes. So we want to hear the voice of the person. This can include healthcare preferences, legal matters and financial planning. Advanced care planning is about understanding and respecting the person's values and what quality of life means to them. By discussing and documenting these wishes early, families reduce uncertainty and stress when decisions become urgent. It's a gift of peace of mind for everyone involved. It's their legacy you can leave behind. And you can see here from this dementia journey and palliative care. So I would always say that it is important to bring in a palliative approach from the beginning. So from diagnosis, and it can be done differently for different people, and it depends on how that's done. But we can begin advanced care planning conversations by identifying values and preferences and asking someone what matters most to them. That's what is important, is what matters most to them. We can also begin at key triggers, like where there's significant decline in function or recurrent infection, hospitalizations, persistent distressing symptoms. And if we do that, we can avoid frequent hospital admissions, uncontrolled symptoms, and people having difficulty with decision making or communication. To begin starting conversations about the future can feel intimidating. So we need to approach these talks with patience and openness. Begin with simple, non-threatening questions like, what's important to you now? How do you want to be cared for if things change? Include people the person trusts, family, friends, healthcare professionals. And remember, it's okay if these decisions happen gradually over time. We don't want anyone to get overwhelmed by it. So person-centered care. What is the goal of person-centered care? Well, it's to maintain personhood in the face of a person's declining cognition. And it's about a value base that asserts the absolute value of all human lives, regardless of age or ability. It's an individualized approach, recognizing uniqueness, understanding the world from the perspective of the user, and providing a social environment that supports psychological needs. As you see here, primary person-centered care as the key principles is built on 5 key principles: knowing the person's history, choices, etc. You can see there. But I suppose this approach, what this does is it ensures that care is tailored, respectful and inclusive, promoting dignity and quality of life for people with dementia. I think the slide reinforces, for me, the person-centered care goes beyond treating dementia symptoms. It involves caring for the whole person and their loved ones. And understanding the goals and preferences of older adults is essential. It encourages us to consider behaviours labelled as challenging. So we might have heard this before, or we might have used this before ourselves. But so we try and encourage that those aren't used and that we foster more compassionate and effective care. However, effective communication is a key for aligning a person's value, wishes and preferences for their care. Therefore, we need to listen, like really listen to the verbal and non-verbal cues we are receiving, but we also need to hear them. I think the single most important thing that you can bring to this work is yourself and your ability and willingness to reach out and engage empathetically, to be truly present, to listen attentively and actively, to provide opportunities for what needs to be said, to recognise that you don't have all the answers, and to understand that I can't make it all right all the time, to respond in a caring, loving way that respects dignity and autonomy of people. And you see here that there is a little image here, and it's talking about a person living with dementia resisting care, and healthcare professionals or others calling it challenging. How we communicate can matter more than what we say. Tone, body language, or facial expressions and eye contact all carry meaning. When cognition changes, connection doesn't have to. A calm voice, a smile, and patience go a long way in building connection. Just if you think about it, have you ever had a lazy morning where you just wanted to stay in bed, under the warm covers, not ready to face the cold or the day, thinking the day can wait, today I'm just going to be. You finally get up, you feel content and ready to start the day. Now think of people with advanced dementia, reliant on others for care, wherever home is for them. Imagine lying in your warm bed, safe and comfortable, when 2 strangers walk in. They know your name, but you don't know theirs. Suddenly, they pull the covers off and tell you, come on, let's quickly have a shower. It's cold, you don't feel ready, you don't know them. I know I'd be angry, very angry. Sadly, this is the reality for people living with dementia at advanced stages, when their voice is no longer being heard. Boxes must be ticked, tasks completed, families want to see their loved ones washed and dressed. It can feel like a no-win situation. The person doesn't get a shower, staff get into trouble. If they do, it might be against the person's wishes in that moment, so that's not person-centered care. And when the person reacts, we call their behaviour challenging. But is it really, or is it simply self-protection? We don't know what they have brought with them throughout their journey in life, what has happened in their world previously. So I think it's important that we just don't treat the dementia, we treat the person. And we look at ways and understanding of where they've come in their life. And the way I feel that that's important is by getting a life history, by talking to the person and hearing where, or their loved ones, depending on where they are in their journey. But you need to know, what is this person bringing to the table? What have their experiences and relationships been in the past? Because that can be very useful for us as healthcare professionals and carers to provide support in a manner that they want us to provide support to. Caregivers play a vital role in the lives of those with dementia. So let's see how we can just discuss how we can look at resources and strategies and the importance of self-care. Caregiving is a labour of love, but it can also be exhausting and isolating. It's important to recognise that carers need support too, not just physically, but emotionally. It's normal to feel a range of emotions, grief, frustration, and hope. Finding support groups, counselling, or respite care can help sustain caregivers. Remember, taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary to continue providing the best care. Support is out there, you don't have to navigate this alone. Local groups for people with dementia and caregivers offer understanding and practical help. Counsellors, legal advisors, and healthcare teams are important resources. Connecting with dementia-friendly services and communities reduce isolation and build resilience. And it's important to get to know these services or reach out. I have some resources at the end of the slides here that can be shared. So as we wrap up, let's reflect on what we've learned and discuss conclusions. So dementia is a life-limiting illness, but people can live well with appropriate support. Palliative care should be integrated throughout the dementia journey, not just at the end. That's really important. Carers are central to this process and requiring recognition and support. Collaborative integrated care makes a meaningful difference, balancing hope for today with preparation for tomorrow. Thank you all for being here and engaging in this meaningful conversation. Living well today and planning with hope for tomorrow is a balance that takes time, care, and courage. By supporting each other and making small, thoughtful steps, we can ensure dignity and quality of life for people living with dementia and their loved ones. Please feel free to reach out if you want any more information or support. Together, we can walk this journey with compassion and strength. Thank you.
And thanks very much for that, Donna. That was really great and informative and very thought provoking, I think, as well. For it's always so important to remind us ourselves that it is the person first and not the condition, and that we're always looking to the person and talking with the person. I think that's really important, and that everybody should have a choice. Val, you're there as well, so I might include you. But the future care planning is so important, and advanced care planning. And I think listening to both your presentations today, it's about that key piece of having the conversations earlier on, and especially early at diagnosis stage. And when do you think there are opportunities, the best opportunities for those times? I'm catching you on the spot, Stephen, just very quickly. Donna, you might like to come in.
Yeah, you might just repeat that for me, sorry.
Yeah, the opportunities for conversations, in the beginning. Where do you think those conversations are good to have? Or
I think, I suppose I'm coming with a bit of a bias. I'm, out in people's homes, and I think for me, going into someone's home is a privilege. That's not just a cliche. I always believed that and still do that, people are less there's less ability to go into fight or flight mode. When you're in their home, you are a visitor. You are the one so I think in their homes is very important. But I think it should begin from little conversations. When I meet someone from the start, I ask, what is their life story? If when you get to know someone's life story, they will lead the way. And the conversation can start with what matters most to you. And if you find out what matters most to them, it can bring about several conversations throughout the trajectory. But I do believe that we need to keep talking. We need to prepare people for the future and try and avoid potential crises that are unavoidable. And the only way to do that is by talking.
And early conversations. And, in terms of palliative care, often when we think about palliative care, and for most people, the inquiries we would get to the information and support line, a lot of people associate palliative care with end of life care. But it's really good to hear you talk today about that palliative care approach and how that can be brought in earlier on. And when you're talking about that, you're talking about that being brought in at early diagnosis through GP practice, through nurses, through everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, and just having those conversations to try and get people used to the idea, because it is a newer way of looking after people with dementia. And it's so important because we need that support to provide person-centered care. I believe that we need to look after patients, people with dementia, like they are our own, like they're our own loved ones. Because until we do that and we step into their world rather than, just treating their dementia, we won't be able to provide effective care.
Mm-hmm.
We won't. Yeah. We won't. We will be able to provide care, and person-centered care is right, but really it will be just moments, and it will depend on who you meet. But I think if we look at it from a different perspective or a different lens, where we align their care to their needs, the way we do that is with a palliative approach. And I'm very passionate about trying to keep people living in their own homes if that's their wish, and avoid unnecessary transitions to another environment if that's not appropriate. And the way we do that is by providing these supports to people in their own homes.
And that probably, supports.
Care.
Yeah. That probably supports carers as well, who are providing care in the home.
Predominantly the support to the caregiver. It's a listening ear. It's a pick up the telephone when I really don't know, but I really know, but I just want someone else to tell me that I'm right or support me in my decisions. Because if we don't have these decisions with people from the start, then they don't know, and we generally tend to overtreat people when, had we have had these conversations, had we earlier conversations, had we have documented in our care plan, well, then that's when we can look back at these and say, well, this was my wish when I was, and now and yes, it has changed a little bit, but we can still keep going, and we can still keep changing that. That doesn't, the narrative, it doesn't have to stay stagnant. We can talk, we can change our minds and opinions, and that's okay too. And it is okay that it can be difficult for everyone involved.
And I think that's,
we need to be the ones that are initiating some of these conversations.
And I think, with that, it's minding ourselves as well. People who are providing care, what kind of supports do you suggest for them in terms of looking after themselves as well? Because we need to mind ourselves to be able to provide care for other people.
Absolutely. We can't provide, and I say it all the time, and I firmly believe it, we can't look after someone in the advanced stages of dementia towards the end of their life at home, in their own homes, if that's the place that they're choosing, without the caregivers. And that can be really difficult, and they do need support. And sometimes it's just that care coordination piece that they know that they can have someone to bounce ideas off or ask opinions of and future plan with. So, but I think reaching out to other people as well. There are some, I know it depends. There's, it's a postcode lottery sometimes, the services in Ireland in relation to everything, not only dementia care and palliative care, but for everything. But I think if we reach out to other people, we often hear, other people's experiences, and they can sometimes signpost us. And healthcare professionals should be signposting us also. But there are websites available, and there is I think I put it on the last slide there, there's some where you can check the local services from Alzheimer's Society in your area, just by going onto the website. But I think, talking to people and taking time out, and it's easy for me to say, but don't feel guilty about stepping away sometimes or just needing a break, because it is very important, no matter what illness.
Yeah, and I'm looking at your slide there. You do have a resource slide at the end. It's really good. So we'll share that afterwards. And there, actually, the Q&A did actually work throughout the session. So that was good. And just, I suppose what I'd like to do today, I think we probably all need to get going for lunch, but thank you both for a really good presentation today. It's really kind of brought home that piece about how palliative care is so important for people with dementia, and that future care planning is really necessary, and that we need to have those conversations. So Valerie and Donna, I'd just like to thank you for your presentations today, and to Claire and Karen behind the scenes for for helping with the delivery of the presentations. We will share an email afterwards, and we'll put the webinar up on our website. It'll probably be a couple of weeks, but we'll definitely share links and information to resources that both Donna and Val have talked about today, and other resources that we have through the Hospice Foundation. The other thing, if you have any queries after today, we have our information and support line 1800 60 70 66, which Val mentioned earlier. So 1800 60 70 66. So if you have any queries after today, you can contact that number. And for specific queries in relation to dementia, Donna has put up a number there, so we can pass it on to anybody if they need to give us a call. But we'll also, as I say, share the information in an email and on our website. So just thank you, Donna, and thank you, Valerie, for today.
Thanks, everyone.
Delighted if people can do the end of session feedback form. Many thanks, everybody, for attending, and enjoy your lunch.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.